皆さん、こんにちは。この場所は TGS2018 です。お名前はジャックです。この人は Jason さんです。
おめでとう、久しぶりですね。
We got that.
You did. Welcome to TGS. This is Jack. I am Jason, is what the young man just said. Did a very good job of it.
I tried.
Your pronunciation was a little bit Australian, but these things happen,
Look,
Get some goys up.
B plus?
B plus, yeah, okay, that's not too bad.
Sure.
I'd pay that. But how excited are you? This is your first Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah. So second time I'm actually outside of Australia. I came over in June, and so back for Tokyo Game Show. This is day one, so we're here on the business day, so it's not as terrifying as the public days.
On the public days, they pull 80 to 100,000 people per day, and these halls are big, but they're not that big, so it does get a bit of a crowd crush. But I think it's still a pilgrimage. It's still one of the big three. Yeah. You got to, if you can ever do an E3 at Gamescom and a TGS, it should be in anyone's future.
And for anyone who's just gone to like PAX Oz, holy crap! Like we just went to the merch booth, the merch hall, and I was like, this is the size of PAX Oz exhibition hall,
correct.
And there's like so many more of them in a completely separate building. But we're here. What are you looking forward to?
EDF, mate. It's all D3. They've announced the English translations. They've got, so not only have they got the EDF 5, what we're calling 5, but they've got like the one that they're kind of framing on Gears. They've got a couple of other ones coming out. Plus, no doubt they'll have some bullshit waifu game as well. So.
Well, I mean, I'm here for as much BL as I can get. Kingdom Hearts 3, I'll get if I can. Catherine Full Body.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen. A lot of weird things that have kind of been guessed about what the game's going to be like, but hopefully we'll be able to see that as well. And there's a whole indie section that I didn't really expect coming to Tokyo Game Show.
Left Alive. Yeah. There's plenty of cool stuff. As always, like Tokyo Game Show, the reason we come here is because obviously we do all our Japanese stuff. Yeah. And realistically, you're not going to see much coverage for it in a lot of the other expos, which is fine. Like we know what we're coming to Tokyo for, so you just got to
eyes on the prize.
Got to accept it. Sometimes you just got to get past certain things, So
well, we've got a lot coming up on the show, so let's jump straight into it.
All right, Cardi, it's that time. It's time for the wrap for Namco Bandai. Play us a beat. No, don't do that. You've played a lot of the games here at the Namco Bandai booth. You want to reel them off?
Yeah, so I would say that, Bandai Namco has always had such a strong following here and a strong showing every single year.
Jump Force, what was the other one? Soul Calibur and World Seeker. Jump Force. So, Burning Blood. It's basically Burning Blood with all the Shonen Jump characters this time instead.
Yeah, so your very standard fare arena combat. Again, it's pretty solid, but I'm just going to go out and say it right now. I absolutely loathe the aesthetic. I think they're obviously going for a more gritty angle.
Trying for that semi-real, yeah.
Yeah, they're really going for that, pushing for that Western audience, and its reveal at E3 really speaks volumes. But I look at it, and every single character looks like their clothing is just covered in fiberglass, and their skin just looks like pig skin. Like they look like a football. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It is a little. I must say, the aesthetic is a little bit jarring on what is a good base of a game. Like if you enjoyed Burning Blood and that kind of 3D arena fighter that they almost originated, like them and Naruto originated, you know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty enjoyable game, but yeah, I'm kind of with you. I hope they spend the next little bit polishing up that aesthetic. It's a little bit mank. But if we're doing contentious shit, if we're doing the ones that World Seeker, it's a Luffy game set on an island where he's like going around as a character RPG.
Yeah, I guess Grand Line isn't really much in a priority.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, but I find it interesting because, being able to travel around, doing that Spider-Man stuff of, using Gomu Gomu to, approach higher areas and stuff. An open world aesthetic seems pretty good for a game like that, but it seems that Luffy's stuck in one particular area. Maybe there's some sort of story explanation where maybe there's some sort of Bermuda Triangle thing where the current's brought back to him and his ship's ruined or something and he's staying in the one spot. But yeah, I am with you on that one. It doesn't seem to suit narratively or tonally.
Well, how do you bring the other guys in? Are they playable or is it only playable as Luffy? To me, it's one of those things as much as One Piece is about Luffy, it's about the ensemble, So I wonder how they're going to do it, whether they're going to do it, you're separated from them and that's how you're doing it, or I don't know, I just don't understand how it's going to pan out in the end.
Good on them for trying something new. It's not another Burning Blood, but it seems like they're pretty much applying the foundations of Unlimited World Red. Yeah. So it seems like what they've been wanting to do for quite some time.
Yeah. So that is true. And then the last one, I guess, is Soul Calibur. So this is very close to release. We're talking a month from about today. What are your thoughts on playing it after playing it?
Well, it seems like it's very much close to the final build. You've got Cervantes, everyone's husbando and stuff like that. So it's great to be able to pit like father and daughter, Ivy together, fighting each other. So again, like fairly solid experience, seems approachable from all angles. Soul Calibur's always been like that. It's always been like, you know, easy to pick up, very hard to master. So
Vertical, horizontal kick. What more is there to know?
Absolutely, and that's all it needs to do. Like, it's really hard to mess a Soul Calibur game up, except for 5, but 6 is looking pretty solid.
So that is probably it for Namco Bandai. I guess of them you've played so far at Namco, what was the pick?
I gotta say, it's great to see Ace Combat back, so I'm gonna go with Ace Combat 7.
Fair enough, Cardi, and that is Namco at TGS.
Nostalgia can simultaneously be a good and bad thing. Some of the most important things to consider when revisiting your childhood or even experiencing cult hits for the first time is most definitely context. The reason I'm bringing this up is because the very critically and publicly polarizing Shenmue I and II are finally available to play on the PS4, Xbox One and PC. More on the nostalgia angle later in the review, as this is pretty essential considering those who are willing to play Shenmue III as it releases later next year. Shenmue tells the tale of Ryo Hazuki as he travels in and around Asia to avenge his father's death at the hands of the mysterious Lan Di. Along the way, he meets a colourful cast of characters to help and or hinder his attempts to throw down, and finds through the power of the dragon and phoenix mirrors that he gets himself caught into a generation-long struggle that has claimed many lives. As the name suggests, Shenmue I and II chronicles the events spanning Ryo's exploits from his hometown to Kowloon in Hong Kong and even Guilin in China. What makes it so genre-defying is its incredible realistic depictions of its geographical locations and real-time mechanics, prompting you to complete objectives or acquire clues throughout specific times in the day. Its foundations had inspired many games to explore time-sensitive and comically mundane objectives to truly create a living, breathing, urgent universe. Some games that come to mind that are inspired by it include Deadly Premonition, Dead Rising, or even Sega's very own sister series, Yakuza. You know, the franchise I personally cannot shut up about. However, being on modern consoles, the general implication with re-releases or remasters are that they are touched up and revised for a new audience and subsequently deemed the definitive version to play. Unfortunately, in its current form, Shenmue I's remastering is far from fantastic. Due to the resources at hand, the remaster team were unable to provide audio or visual fidelity that was passable. Most cutscenes change aspect ratio without warning and can be pretty distracting, especially around really tense quick-time events. And audio is ripped straight from the Dreamcast version, and the better your speakers are, the more glaring the discrepancy of quality is from main characters all the way to the NPCs in each town. However, as most assets from Shenmue II were taken from the original Xbox version, audio quality is improved significantly and feels like a more all-rounded product in comparison to Shenmue I. I personally find Shenmue II to be a better narrative and thematic experience because Ryo kind of like feels more like a fish out of water once he's forced out of Japan all the way to Hong Kong or China. But I really hope for Shenmue I's sake that it's patched further down the line to address the visual issues, because despite the audio assets that can't really be improved because, you know, the assets, the original ones, were actually lost, the first game's remaster definitely deserves better than the treatment it's got in its remaster. As its cult status implies, I'm not really going to mince words here. You're either going to fall in love or loathe Shenmue as a series. As this particular remaster is lacking slightly in production value and quality, I fear a lot of new players are going to be experiencing the series for the first time in a negative light, or they're going to get the wrong idea. And when I mentioned context earlier, I really emphasize its importance here. Keep in mind that many leaps and bounds in controls, open world design, and time mechanics have been pioneered and improved by more recent games over Shenmue's 20-year legacy. So Shenmue might be slightly dated by today's standards, but as long as you're pretending it's the late 90s while playing it, I'm sure you'll still find Shenmue I and II to be enthralling experiences in their own right, even if you consider it as a proof of concept for many open world titles released after the Dreamcast era.
Hey, Cringing Card here at the Sony booth at Tokyo Game Show 2018. There's a lot of stuff here at Sony. Seeing Kingdom Hearts, seeing just a lot of games actually that are at other booths. And to be honest, I'm seeing more than I would have expected from Sega Cart.
Oh, right you are. You're a very perceptive man, aren't you? Anyway, we'll jump straight into it because I'm a big Yakuza fan and the new studio, or the studio's got a new project out called Project Judge, funnily enough. Also known in Japan as Judge Eyes. Now, this is a spin-off of the Yakuza series. It shows up in Kamurocho, it takes place there. And there's a lot of new things that it's doing. Obviously, it's reutilizing the Dragon engine, probably the most spruced up we've ever seen at the moment. If you really want to, go check out the PS4 demo at the Japanese store, because that's basically what it is, plus a little bit more. There's a couple more free roaming segments, some of the mini games where you walk around, run around in a VR headset beating up people with like translucent tonfa.
So the Tokyo Game Show demo they've got here is just an expansion of the PSN demo?
A little bit of that, and then you can do a bit of free roam afterwards, because the demo doesn't last for very long. So like you can do some side stuff in the meantime, like a bit of free roam. Very restrictive. You only have 15 minutes. So like, again, it looks great. The demo's coming across really nicely, and we can't wait until it's released later on this year.
Yeah. Speaking of Sega, actually, Catherine is here as well. I checked it out actually at the Sega booth, and it's interesting. 15 minutes exactly, because they always have the little egg timer next to it. Yes. But this is Catherine Full Body. It's a release, I don't know, expansion might be the right kind of word?
An enhanced port.
Yeah, that's fair. So at least in Japan, it's going to be PS4 and Vita. And this one is showing off some of the new mechanics. There are some new blocks, some of the new blocks, at least in single player, like grouped together, so you can pull out two at once. You played more of the multiplayer though. What were some of the gimmicks there?
So I gotta say, I feel very sorry for the French guy I was paired with, because we smashed him. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Anyway, moving on, there are some brand new power-ups, some brand new blocks, like a lot of it has a lot of horizontal spread.
Yes.
And combining that with some of the power-ups which are power downs, they're kind of detrimental. So if you come across a skull, if you touch that, it'll basically like automatically move for you. So it can either be a really good thing or an incredibly bad thing.
I was thinking like maybe it'd be debuffs for the enemy, but no, it just ruins your life.
Yep. So there's also online multiplayer too, so that was missing from the first game. So it was a very big omission, because I mean there's a big, fairly competitive scene going on, and it's great that they're acknowledging that and adding more multiplayer bells and whistles. So across the board, again, it's going to be interesting to see what the story holds for us.
Yeah, because you were saying you didn't want them to kind of retcon a lot of what the first game did, because that might be a little bit, a bit of a mistake. Hopefully they don't do that, obviously.
Yeah, because the first game was wonderful in its own right, so hopefully they add more and they don't omit or retcon, because, you know, that's going to live or die based on how it's handled. Anyway, moving onwards, you're out of here, because we're going to be talking about Sekiro. So Sekiro is the latest From Software game. Haha, it's just like Dark Souls. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. A lot more along the lines of Tenchu, and it's funny considering that Activision is actually publishing this.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's going back to its roots. I mean, they did that with Tenchu ages ago outside of Japan, so it feels like a reunion of sorts. So the way characters and bosses work is that it takes a lot of cues from Nioh, which took a lot of cues from stuff like Bloodborne and Souls, where you got to exhaust a stamina meter for a lot of the bosses. Yeah. So they're kind of like 3 stages, the Nintendo rule of doing the same thing 3 times. Gets more intense, there's more phases. It's a far more compartmentalized and a far more, I guess, like, not conservative, but it just feels like really, like, it's really neatly packaged. Like, From Software,
maybe concise.
Very concise, exactly. Yeah, unlike me. So, yeah, the way it works is that, you knock that stamina meter bar down, go for some huge damage, like almost like a visceral attack in a sense. So it's very, I wouldn't say it's formulaic, but it tells you you need to play a specific way.
It's familiar in a way.
It's very familiar. You need to actually like do a bit of stealth. There's certain segments where you got knee-high grass and you can take down enemies. A bit of guarding, but like I said, don't let a katana like constantly guard for you all the time, because that's gonna break. So it's very different to what we expect. It's a bit more kind of like a bit more reserved than Bloodborne, but again, not as reserved as Souls. And constantly, I find Souls a little bit tedious in its approach, and it's knocking out a lot of that tedium. Yeah. Very, very good thing. So can't wait to see what we got in store, because it's going to be a while until it comes out. But there's some really, really fantastic things from Software as well as Sega.
All right, Cardi, there's lots of games here at the Capcom booth. You got Mega Man, you got a few others. No Monster Hunter this year, which is interesting. But 2 big boys out as well. Devil May Cry, like Resident Evil 7, well, Resident Evil 8, no, Remake 2. Yes. Resident Evil Remake 2. Devil May Cry, let's chat about Devil May Cry. What do you think?
I gotta say, Capcom are absolutely kicking goals at the moment, aren't they? Devil May Cry 5, the latest in the series, chronologically and release date. I don't think it's the DMC 6 there, but it's absolutely fantastic. Looks awesome, runs awesome, plays awesome.
And it really is that thing of, it's got that classic mechanic. He has the arm mechanic now, which changes the way you play, because different arms have different mechanisms attached to them. Some have bombs, some have electricity, whatever the case may be. So it really does alter your playstyle. But for me, the thing that stands out, and this is one thing that Devil May Cry has been known for, how good is that aesthetic? Jesus, it looks nice. Like, it's the right kind of grimy.
Yeah, even Itsuno-san had actually exclaimed and admitted that he took a lot of cues from the reboot, a lot of things that worked for the reboot aesthetically. You know, we could argue all day about this, but we'll say that there's a lot of influence there, and it definitely shows.
Yeah, and it just adds that extra, like, bit of Capcom gloss to it and changes it a bit, which looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Super King comes out, I think, March next year.
Yeah. Also, Gerbera, the Devil Bringer, or the Devil Breaker, that allows you to do air dashes, is incredibly overpowered. Please use it. Always use it. It is the best Devil Breaker there is.
There you go. That's the tip for you. The game I didn't play, but you did, and looks really, really good. Biohazard RE2, they're calling it here. Resident Evil 2 Remake. What are your thoughts?
Just call it Resident Evil. You're not Japanese. Get over it.
Biohazard.
There we go. So yes, Resident Evil 2, the remake to the it's a very highly weighted remake to a very critically well-received survival horror game. Gotta say, there are no doubts about it. A lot of people were skeptical of its tone, some of the changes. There's nothing to worry about here. The tone is even better than the original game. Everything from the lighting, everything from the aesthetic, to the damage modeling, to the acting, the dialogue, it's all there. It's a B-movie incarnate. It is amazing.
And you were saying that it takes a lot of the cues from Revelations as far as movement and the actual gameplay goes.
Yeah, so narratively speaking, the characters do feel a little bit clumsy. You know, they don't evade, they don't have like full like super soldier abilities, but that's it. Like Resident Evil 2 chronicles Claire Redfield as well as Leon Kennedy's first foray and interactions with zombies. I mean, it's Leon's first day on the force, so of course there's going to be a bit of jank and stuff like that, but it works. Like it feels like it's intentional, like it's actually meant to be there.
No Wesker blood suplexes that were from 6 in this one.
No context sensitivity, but the good thing is that it's really tense. Like, I mean, you may be complaining about no fixed camera angles, but every single area is so claustrophobic. Like, you're fighting William Birkin in the Claire campaign in like narrow corridors, and it's goddamn, it is the scariest thing I've ever played. Leon Kennedy, on the other hand, obviously Claire being a bit more combat oriented, which is great because she's badass. Her characterization is amazing. I mean, she came to town on a motorbike, so
she's a Redfield.
She's automatically badass right there. Leon Kennedy, on the other hand, his scenes are a bit more kind of slow paced, a bit more puzzle oriented, but I think it's the variety that we all need. Like, it's not just them being, obviously they're in the same scenario, but they're changed and altered around a bit, much like Revelations 2. So it feels like an amalgamation of everything that the Resident Evil teams have learned throughout the last 10 years of development and are combining to create an incredibly solid product.
And it is a bit of a return to roots. Number 7, fantastically received game, but that first person kind of American body horror they went for a little bit. So it's a little bit of a return to what they were known for originally.
It is absolutely gruesome as well. And I'm just going to say it right here. This is a ringing endorsement. Capcom know what they're doing. They are kicking so many goals at the moment. And Resident Evil Remake 2, oh man, it is a sign of the times.
And that is Capcom at Tokyo Game Show.
So hanging out at the Indie Games area at TGS, and I'm here with Matt Kelly.
Hey.
Who are you?
I'm just some guy who just attached himself to this about 6 years ago, and no, I'm a developer at Mokomoto Games, and I was very kindly invited along today, which has been lots of fun.
It's been very, very fun, and we've had a bunch of games. You've played some particularly weird ones.
Yeah.
We'll get to some of those. I guess to begin with, one of the first games that you jumped on was Sky Tracers.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Sky Tracers, Matt.
So Sky Tracers was this really cool, basically a running game where you're having to get simply from A to B in a competitive environment via a route of your own creation.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a weird kind of like open world area where you have it's parkour, but it's like jetpacks and like insane parkour, and it's competitive.
Yeah.
And like, how did that feel?
So something that really got me at the start was that we were driving all of this action through just a single button. And to me, that was really impressive. Like, quite often these, anything that's kind of a little bit parkoury is either incredibly automatic or overly complicated to play.
Yeah.
But this was really straightforward, and you just get into it. Yeah. And there was a few moments where, the thing that got me was how much nuance there was to the controls as well. So when I started failing about halfway through when I was playing it, I got stuck in this one section, but I was playing it feeling, this is on me, not the game. And that's always kind of a really satisfying moment when you understand the rules of what's happening and you know this is where I need to improve to complete this.
It was really, really cool to watch. I really enjoyed that. You also got to try My Child Lebensborn. What was that about?
Oh, wow. That was like, in terms of taking your TGS hype from about 100 to 0.
0 in no time flat.
And just depressing the hell out of yourself. No, it really struck me, like, that game. So the pitch of the game is that it's kind of a little bit of a Tamagotchi game, except you are looking after a child who is the son of a Norwegian mother and German soldier father.
And this is set after World War II?
Yeah, so it's set after World War II.
Also, just going to quickly clarify, when you said Tamagotchi to me, I thought literal Tamagotchi kind of style. It's a visual novel.
No, that's the thing. It's like you actually have little controls that you've got to like take him to the bath and then scrub him and put band-aids. So the intro of the game is your kid has come home completely filthy, and he's talking about, oh, these kids beat him up. And you're like, oh, that's so bad. And they're like, oh, so what's a Nazi? And you're like, wow, okay, this game is not pulling any punches. Yeah. And in chatting to the developers, like, they are so passionate about putting some light on the situation that happened in Norway
and
after the war.
Telling it right, because they like, reached out to people that kind of lived in that situation, I think.
Yeah, so, for me, it immediately, like I said to you earlier, like, for me to kind of be like, yes, this game, like, it has to do something that just kind of, it doesn't have to be amazing production values or, wholly new original mechanics.
It needs to give you a reason to play it.
And immediately I empathized with this kid and I was like, wow, your life has gone so horrible and I'm going to try and make it just 5% better for you right now. And I felt for this.
100 to 0, definitely. But I mean, there are a lot of games around. There's so many games, like even next to like a PAX Rising or something, there's so much more than that. And this isn't even in the main hall. Like it's got its own separate area, so you can kind of sit down, have a chat with the devs. And I mean, it's not a quiet area, but it's quieter than the main halls, which is good. And there's even more stuff around. So that was the indie games area of TGS. So it's 5 p.m. on a Friday. There are Japanese businessmen out with megaphones. I think that means it's the end of Tokyo Game Show, or at least the business days. There are 2 more public days, although I'm not sure if we're going to be rocking up to those because I haven't been to a public day. Have you been?
It is hell on earth.
Yeah.
So I think you got the right idea. Yeah. I'm still going to go anyway because I'm God. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'll see if I can get to Sekiro now when all the public come in.
Oh, jeez. It's a lot. It's been a lot. Like, just seeing Tokyo Game Show, when the biggest event you've been to is PAX, and then you go from that to TG, like it's a bit of a step up to TGS because just the merch booth is massive, and then you have the main hall, and it's just a huge building. It's just massive, and it's been a lot to keep up with, but I've really, really enjoyed it. What were some of the highlights for you, Kart, of this TGS?
I gotta say, I've played it before, but I would say game of the show, we're looking at Devil May Cry 5. Like, Capcom are coming out swinging. Like, let's just put it out there. Lay it on a table. If there's one publisher and developer to watch in the next couple of years, definitely Capcom.
Damn. As far as, oh man, I wish I could give like big game of the show for TGS, but it's just like the entire situation has just been, the atmosphere, the vibe, the energy of Tokyo Game Show has been the biggest thing for me, I think.
So is it overbearing?
It's electrifying. And pretty exhausting also. There's a lot of energy being drained out of you when you're at an event like this. Going from one end of the hall, the main hall, to the other end is a hike by itself. The separate merch booth, the indie game area, like there's just so much on show here. And I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm back next year at all. Would not surprise me because this is my first, but this is not your first.
This is my 5th, and I gotta say, like, it can be exhausting, but it's a good kind of exhaustion. You know, you've worked hard, it's got to some of the star, and all that good stuff. So you're gonna love it even more. I can't wait for what next year brings as well, especially with the rumors circulating of like the new generation of consoles. So again, there's a lot of things on the horizon. Still lots to look forward to in 2018 and 2019. But yeah, as far as that, like Capcom, Koei Tecmo, Bandai Namco, as per usual, Square Enix, Sony PlayStation, every single one of them have got goods that we want, that we want to play. We want them in us.
I mean, internet time's your time, Cut. You do what you want with it. But in the meantime, your time between now and the next episode of New Game Plus, check us out on social media, Facebook and Twitter. We are at New Game Plus TV.
Yes, and be sure to check out our Twitch at twitch.tv/New Game Plus TV.
If you want to watch previous episodes, any New Game Plus stuff that is not Twitch, because, I mean, card streaming he wants you to watch. Anyway, youtube.com/New Game Plus TV, and the website is newgameplus.tv. That's the end of Tokyo Game Show. That's the end of my life, because I'm just going to pass out for a little bit. It's fine.
終わりましょう